911. What's the address of the emergency?
Hi, it's 6 Circle Court in West Valley City. Delta 52, copy of control assist.
Delta 52, go ahead.
Respond to South Circle to assist control on the missing family. Susan and Josh Powell, last name.
Welcome to the Escape Safe season powered by 1088 podcast. This is episode 16, a season focused on domestic violence and intimate partner abuse awareness through the 2009 investigation into Susan Cox Powell. I lived it, I investigated it, and now I talk about it because awareness saves lives. I'm your host, Ellis Maxwell. Let's get started. It's February 10th, 2010, day 66. It's a Wednesday. And I conducted an interview, and again, these names are all made-up names. I'm not using the names of the original people. So this is Todd. We're going to call him Todd. And we did a follow-up interview with Todd on today's date, 16 years ago, February 10th. And we had already spoken with him before, but there was some new information that kind of came up. One was that when we were doing some surveillance, we saw an individual with a dog kind of go into the Powell's front yard, and we couldn't really ID him. And then also, so we had that, and then we also had Steve with his dumb ideas of that, pointing fingers. Hey, this person's involved. This person's involved. I was kind of part of it as well. So, hey, guess what, Todd? We got to bring you in. We got to talk to you just one last time, just to make sure everything's kosher. And that's what we did with Todd on today's date. And he was very, very cooperative. He had no problems coming in and for a follow-up interview. And we also conducted the CVSA, which is a controlled voice stress analysis test, kind of like a lie detector test, which he showed absolutely zero deception at all. So very, very good little tool there. But in speaking with Todd, he described his relationship with Susan as being very limited but appropriate, with no indications of intimacy or inappropriate behavior at all. They didn't flirt with one another. She didn't advance on him. He didn't advance on her. None of that junior high stuff at all. He emphasized that Susan's dedication to her marriage and to Josh was very well known, which I think we know that with everybody we've spoken to up to this point, right? Everybody knows from Susan saying, hey, man, I love this guy. Yeah, I am frustrated. I'm at wit's end. I want a divorce. No, I don't want a divorce. We're doing counseling. No matter what, I'm going to make this work. She loved him, and she wanted to keep this family together. And so, he was aware of that as well and shared that. Despite all of the issues, right? He also offered some emotional support at times with Susan, because again, she would share her concerns. He recounted 2 times where Susan had visited their residence. Wasn't obviously too often. He said that it was between the summer of 2009 and the winter. Those were the 2 times that she had last visited their home. Both related to social exchanges, he mentioned, and some support. Todd visited the Powell home more often, however. He stated that he visited the home for several different reasons. One of them was to delivering a play set and helping Josh move this play set around in the backyard, which, they can be very cumbersome and heavy and awkward to move around, right? If it's play set in my head is like one of those log ones. Anyways, he'd been there for that, helped Josh with that project, as well as some home improvements where Josh would need some help moving something or doing something. As we know, right, Josh loves to call upon others to come over and do his stuff for him. And so, yeah. He also mentioned that he would offer some spiritual support as well. I believe they were members of the same church, so they had that commonality as well. He never observed or reported any physical abuse. He stated that Susan never ever shared with him or his family that anything was ever physical between Susan and Josh. It was always just verbal, mental abuse, right? Yelling, screaming, name calling, stuff like that. Yeah. So email, phone exchanges between Todd and Susan was very minimal, and everything was kind of always focused on Susan's relationship with Josh. So I was very grateful he was able to come in and a willingness to come in and provide that information and also follow through with the CVSA. It helps our investigation when we have people who are cooperative, right? Unlike Joshua, who's not very cooperative, as we know. February 11th, 2010, day 67. It's a Thursday. And we're, again, a lot of these, now we're kind of getting back in. These are statements from a male named Darren. And it was Susan's friend, possibly, probably from the Facebook stuff. She had a lot of friends on Facebook. So the goal was to reach out to all of them, get a statement from them, see what they knew, what they didn't know, just to ensure that we establish contact with everybody. We don't want to leave any stones unturned, right? Because we have to wait a full year in order to get that arrest warrant for Josh so that we can get him charged and get him in court. So with Darren, he mentions that, let's see, him and his wife, they were close to Susan, but neither one of them cared for Josh at all. Stated that Susan confided in with Darren's wife about her troubled relationship and noted changes in Josh's behavior over time. Josh would separate himself from group activities during their visits to Washington, and meaning that they would go up, and this was, I believe this was a little bit more earlier on after they moved down to Utah, but they would go to Washington, and Josh would basically spend his time over at his dad's house, and Susan would basically spend her time over at her parents' or her family's home, and that's what they were referencing there. Spoke with a person named Chris, day 73, February 17th, and he mentioned that he assisted with moving and doing some home repairs with Josh. Described Josh as very controlling, dominating all conversations all the time, and highlighted that he was not a good listener. Well, I'm sure he probably wasn't. Usually most of those people that just want to yap like me right now on this podcast, I don't want anybody else to talk. I just want to talk. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true. We're getting a co-host hopefully one day soon, so you won't have to listen to me talk all the time. But anyways, back to this story. Susan was seen as being gentle and intelligent, dedicated to her family and her church. No observations of physical aggression, and noted that there was some financial and emotional control, which we're already familiar with, right? Susan required to support the family financially and, take care of the family, right? That's what her role was, and that was recognized. By them. All right, February 18th, 2010, day 74. It's a Thursday. On this particular day, so we have all of these laptops and hard drives and USB drives, all this digital evidence, right, that we collected from the home, and now we've got to prioritize and be okay. What are we sending to the state laboratory to have it forensically evaluated and examined? And so on this day, we sent up several, it looks like several laptops, hard drives, and some flash drives that were transported up there. And the way this works is it's a location that is centralized, and other agencies, and it's a federal location, and other agencies, they can offer personnel to be a part of this team, right? And if you offer personnel to be a part of this team and they work up there full time, then when you have cases like this, then you can take your stuff up there and you can work on it. And rather than just sending it up there and hoping that they'll get to it when they get to it. So we had one or two people that were assigned up there. And so it made it really nice because we were able to transport our evidence up there, get it booked into them, do the chain of custody, and then our personnel was able to check it out and then start diving into it. And, they would at times, they could call me direct or my co-case and be like, hey, I just came across this or that. And so it was nice in that sense. And so that's what our team that we have that's working up there, that's what they're working on, is getting into that data that they can access. All right, I spoke with Annie. She mentioned that she knew Josh before marriage, noted that he had very demanding behavior, but didn't witness any physical abuse. Move on to Adam. Adam described Josh as odd and controlling in conversations. No news flash there, right? Recounted a discussion where Josh detailed how to hide a body in a mine shaft. Yeah, so now what is that? That's going to be at least 2 times now that he's mentioned hiding a body in a mine shaft to 2 different people, maybe even 3. Susan confided in Adam that Josh was controlling, ruled her with fear and intimidation. Now, is that really Susan's choice of language, or is that this person's choice of language? Because we've not ever heard, I don't think we've ever heard Susan mention that she was ruled by fear and intimidation by Josh. But I mean, clearly she was to a degree, right? What was the fear? Well, the fear of not being able to have sex because she pissed him off, the fear of him taking the kids. So he did threaten her, definitely threatened her. We know that. Fear and intimidation. Adam, nice job. He would have definitely been on the stand when we were prosecuting Josh. I promise that. Let's see. Ruled her with fear, intimidation, and manipulated her into self-doubt, describing his behavior as brainwashing. Very, very well done. Adam gave a good description, and that is very, very spot on, 100%. Randy heard of Susan's struggles via church communication. Church communication, what did they do? Send out a newsletter? Hey, Susan Powell shared this week. She spoke to a lot of people, man. She wore her feelings on her sleeve. She wore her heart on her sleeve, right? And that's what really makes this case troubling for Josh, because she not only documented in her own writings, she shared information with everybody, from work colleagues to here. Randy, heard of Susan's struggles through the church communication. Described Josh as weird and observed him acting suspiciously at social gatherings. I don't know if I took that or spoke to her suspiciously. How was he acting suspiciously at social gatherings? I wonder what that looked like. I received information that Steve Powell had called the FBI because he wanted to meet with them today. So at this point in the investigation, he's really not too happy with us. Steve isn't. And so he feels like that we're not, I don't know, maybe he feels like we're not listening to him. Maybe that's part of it. Or Maybe he feels like a suspect, right? I mean, we've interviewed him. We've wanted to go inside of his home, but for whatever reason, he felt like, hey, West Valley, I don't trust them. They're not doing what I think they should be doing or whatever. So he contacts the FBI, and we'll get into that a little bit later as to what he wanted to share with the FBI. And we'll move on to February 22nd, day 78, a Monday. And we have Kathy. Kathy noted Josh's withdrawal from the church and refusal to support Susan financially. Susan opened her own checking account to buy food and pay tithing because Josh restricted her access. So here's another witness that is aware of the financial abuse, right? Lisa confirmed Susan's reports of financial control as well, and Josh's refusal to attend counseling. Yeah. Susan sought church assistance for food due to Josh withholding money. Now, how messed up is that, man? Like that's just awful that she can't access any money because he's got it all locked down, and she can't go to the store, buy food, and what she can go and buy is very limited because of the amount of money that he shares with her to give her to go to the grocery store. And so now she has to get assistance from the church. It's too bad. It's really too bad. February 23rd, 2010. And this one here is, this was a lot more in depth. Connie is her name. She was a close friend of Susan's since childhood. So she's kind of going to give us a good look from back in the day before Josh came into the picture, and then how that kind of escalated from there. Susan asked Connie to go with her to look at wedding dresses, and she stated that Josh insisted that he go with them, right? Telling Susan this, you ready? He had to approve of the dress because he was the one that was going to be looking at her in it. And he wanted to be sure that the dress was pleasing to him. Yeah. So she couldn't even go with a friend to look at wedding dresses because Josh wanted to be there. Man, I mean, come on. That's got to throw up some red flags, right? And that's what she exactly said too, man. She's like, if there's any red flags, there was the first ones right there that she saw. Described Josh as being controlling, refusing to allow Susan to purchase food or clothing for their children without his consent. Yeah, to have his consent. She said that during the visit, Susan told her she didn't have any money and she didn't have access to their bank accounts, passwords, computers, none of that. Connie stated, as far as she can remember, ever since the Powells moved to Utah, Josh could never maintain a job. Susan had to work to support the entire family, even though she really wanted to stay home, take care of the kids. She couldn't. She had to work. And, we know that, right? I mean, when they first moved down there, he kind of wanted to dabble in his own businesses. He wanted to kind of try to do his own thing. And that's where I believe the real estate stuff kind of came in. And, but, we'll later learn more about that and why it didn't play out. But eventually he did go get a job. He had to. She learned, the friend, Connie, she learned that they were receiving food assistance from the church. In return, they were supposed to be, they being Susan and Josh, they were supposed to be cleaning their church building. And Josh would go with Susan to help clean, and she'd end up doing it herself. He would refuse. He wouldn't go with. So not only is this, I mean, at this point, it sounds like he's not working. And Susan's the only one working, but she doesn't really have access to the funds, the bank account. And so she's having to get church assistance. But then now, in lieu of that, they've got to go in and clean the church. And Josh can't even go help her do that. Like, I mean, it's just too bad. Too bad. Connie said they got into a verbal fight in front of everyone. She said that within the last year or two, Susan decided to open her own checking account. And so, we're familiar. We're familiar with that. That's when she kind of starts making that turn, right? She's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to start living for me rather than worrying about you, Josh, all the time now, right? So she opens up her checking account. She becomes more independent, and her friend sees this, hears it from Susan. She began defying some of Josh's wishes, such as paying tithing, buying what she wanted, and doing what she wanted, and having girls' night out, right? Joining up with Mary Kay, all these different things. Susan told her that things were getting better. And, that's interesting, right? That they're getting better. I don't know if they necessarily were getting better, but I believe that she was feeling better, right? Josh's behavior is still the same. However, she is not just sitting back on the sidelines going, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, I'll ride my bike to work, sir. And, and okay, I'll only take $20 to the store, like instead of kind of just bowing down to him and doing what he wants her to do, she's starting to do her thing and standing up for herself. So I don't think things are getting better. They just seem better because she's happier, because she's starting to live rather than being confined and micromanaged by Josh. Connie said that Susan still worked full-time, cooked all the meals, gardened their food, prepared and took care of parented their children. All of this with very little to no help from Josh. Yeah. So basically, she's living in this relationship with Josh and these boys, but she's kind of almost doing it by herself, right? She's having to work full time, come home, clean the house, parent the kids, entertain them, cook meals for the family, clean up those meals, and do all this without any help, man. I mean, that's awful. All right, February 24th, 2010. And earlier we had mentioned that Steve, Josh's dad, had contacted the FBI. He wanted to talk to the FBI. The FBI is going to get stuff done. And so with that, this is what we're going into. You ready? How many of y'all heard of the Stephen Kosher missing person? So he went missing, and at this time, February 2010, I was not familiar with the disappearance of Stephen Kosher. I was busy with another case. Yeah, this case. But thankfully, Steve was able to bring this to our attention. And he had mentioned that basically he told the FBI that Stephen Kosher and Susan Powell had ran off together. Yeah, isn't that wild? And it's like, okay, well, first off, let's think about this for a minute. How would this even come to play? How would this happen, right? Josh and Susan are home on Sunday the 6th, right? And now it is Monday the 7th. And they're all gone. They're all gone, right? And Josh returns with the kids, but no Susan. Susan's purse is in the house. Her keys, her wallet, financial documents, like everything's there. Like it's like she just disappeared, gone, fairy dust, right? So what? I mean, was Stephen kosher? Did he like swing by the house? Hey, Josh, you gone? Okay, I'm gonna come by the house. I'll grab Susan. And he kind of rolls up there and picks up Susan and takes her, and then they run off together. I mean, come on, man. Like, I mean, I don't even get it. But anyways, that's what he wanted to report to the FBI, right? And so I researched this kosher name on the internet, and I find two articles. And one was from the Salt Lake Tribune, and it was dated the 11th of January of 2010. And the article reported that Stephen at the time was a 30-year-old male, last seen on the 13th of December, walking away from his vehicle in Henderson, Nevada. This is what it reported, okay, in a neighborhood. Now, kosher was originally from the Salt Lake Valley, I believe, either Salt Lake County or Davis County, one of the two, moved to St. George in 2009. And that's what I discovered from that. So I'm kind of thinking, going, okay, all right, I kind of see where Stephen Powell's going with this, right? He is a Utah native. He did have ties or grew up in Salt Lake, Davis County area. They both were involved in the church. And okay, all right, whatever. I still don't know where he's going with everything. Like how even is going to make this sound possible. But let's go into this other article I found. So, because I'm still like at this point, 16 years ago, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. So I reviewed the second article, and this one came out of Nevada, dated the 20th of January 20th. And the article shared kosher's involvement in the LDS religion, and let's see, that for whatever reason they had in there that he encountered some, trying to find employment in St. George. He was having some troubles there. There was also a paragraph detailing a web page that had been started by one of Stephen Kosher's friends. The webpage was devoted to finding Stephen Kosher, and visitors could help leave tips there as well. The article indicated that they had received several tip calls that seem unlikely, but some of them included the tips that Kosher's disappearance was related to Susan Powell's disappearance. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there wasn't just only, I forgot about that. So there wasn't only just Steve and him having this crazy notion. Maybe some other people had mentioned it as well. The article provided a timeline. Now, this timeline's interesting because she does end up in the Salt Lake County area, but it's after Susan had gone missing, right? So he was in Ruby Valley, Nevada, and then Wendover, and then and that was on the 9th of December, right? So this is a few, a couple days after Susan goes missing that he's up in Wendover. Now, I would say Henderson, for those that are listening and not familiar with Nevada, Henderson, Nevada is a suburb of Las Vegas. So it's just a quick jaunt out of Las Vegas, and you're in Henderson. That is about 6 hours south of Salt Lake City, Utah, is where Henderson's located. Now, this Ruby Valley, Nevada, that is kind of like, if I remember correctly, it's kind of straddles the border of Utah, Nevada, on the west end of Utah, but the east end of Nevada. And I want to say it's kind of like maybe a middle, like kind of in the middle of the state of Nevada, maybe. Anyways, Nonetheless, he was in Ruby Valley, and then he rolled into Wendover, Nevada, and financial records showed him in Utah County, Nephi, the following day. So that was in the news. That's what I found in the news, right? I researched his name in our database, and we had no involvement with him at all, ever. So it's not like he was, nothing. But nothing new there to learn of him. And his phone number, I cross-referenced what phone number I had for him that I could find. I cross-referenced it with Josh and Susan's phone records that we had at that time, and no hits, nothing came up between them at all. I made phone contact with the detective in St. George and a detective in Henderson and scheduled appointments to meet with them. Now you're asking, why two police departments? Well, so he resided in St. George, and his car was located in Henderson, Nevada. So the missing person report is done in St. George, and then Henderson Police Department, they create the case for the abandoned vehicle, and then and so they've got that case. And so they kind of, they have the two cases, but the primary case for the missing person for Stephen Kosher, I believe, should be the St. George Police Department. And so I scheduled times to go down and meet with both of those detectives and see if there's some more information to obtain from them, and maybe see if they were willing to share some data as well with me that I could cross-reference with the Powell case and just really prove or disprove the theory that these two ran off together. And we'll get into that interview once that takes place, and you'll be able to see really what Stephen had to share and say. Anyways, February 25th is day 81. It's a Thursday, and we got Josh Powell on the hook. I called, left him a voicemail as usual, because he never answers my phone calls. And because we still wanted his fingerprints, right? I mean, last episode I'd reached out to him. He was in the state of Utah. And I was like, all right, great, perfect. Come over to the station so we can get your prints. And he refused. He didn't show up. So now he's back in Washington. And so we got to see if we can get him to roll over to the sheriff's office and submit his prints. And eventually his lawyer calls me back. He wasn't happy. He never was happy to call me back. And it was just because I'm contacting his client, right? Why are you calling my client? Well, because I want to talk. This is who I want to talk to, man. I want to talk to your client. I don't want to talk to you. But anyways, nonetheless, he did pass on the information to Josh, and he did get over to the sheriff's office and offer his prints, get his prints. So we were able to get that taken care of. So that wraps up February. Between the last episode and this episode, and our next episode will roll into March. But in closing, as all these different people we've spoken to here in the month of February, multiple witnesses describe Josh as controlling, verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, manipulative, financial restrictive. So a lot of things going on there, and it's not just one-time use, right? These are patterns. These are things that are happening often and frequently, and we're hearing it, not from one person, not two, not even 10. I mean, what number of people are we up to at this point? I don't know. I need to figure that out. But we've got to be pushing close to 50 plus, right? Susan was seen as the hardworking and devoted wife and mother to her children, often managing all of the responsibilities by herself, right? So basically, hey, I live with a roommate. I think she even referenced him as her third child at one point in the investigation. Evidence of emotional financial abuse is consistent throughout all of these statements. Susan reported being ruled by fear and having her self-confidence undermined. and being isolated from resources and support. Now, if that stuff sounds familiar to you, right, and this is happening with you, I encourage you, if you're ready, to get some help, find some support, and start working towards a safe escape. Most direct knowledge of abuse or control came from Susan herself, or the close friends, but many acquaintances observed, odd, controlling behavior from Josh, but nothing that was violent, right? Several friends and church members encouraged Susan to seek help or leave Josh. And, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what people wanted, that's what they're going to say is, hey, well, you need to leave them. You need to divorce them. But, the other thing is, and I don't recall if I've said this in the past, but rather than telling somebody, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, you go divorce them. Why haven't you divorced them yet? Rather than going down that road, these people, they know they want to. They know they want to escape. But just let them know that you're there. You're there to support them. Hey, when you reach a time you're comfortable and you want to escape this relationship safely, let me know. I'll be here for you. Just let them know you'll be there. And I think that will really go a long ways. And I think to myself now that's a good approach as well. I've done the same thing to people. I've been like, you just need to leave them. Just divorce them already, And that's not what these people are wanting to hear. They know that. They're just surviving. They're hanging on, they're surviving, and they're trying to figure it out. And some of them are hopeful. Some of them are hopeful, like Susan, that their loved one will change for the better and for the better of their relationship, right? So anyways, if this episode gave you something to think about, share it with someone who may need help, and understand this. Awareness saves lives, man. If we can be aware and share this information with others, or be aware for ourselves, then maybe we can help ourselves. You've got to be ready yourself, right? So thank you for being a part of this platform. Thanks for listening. Thanks for questions and engaging. Be kind, be safe. Cheers.